Okay, so good morning guys. Myself Dr. Ajay Singh and today we are going to discuss about human reproduction. That is the part second. In the previous lecture that we have completed the male reproductive system and the today's lecture which is the part 2 of that part 1. So in this second part we are going to discuss topics which are as follows. So the first one is female reproductive system. The second one is gametogenesis. Gametogenesis, in which our first one is spermatogenesis. So these four topics we are going to discuss in the today's lecture. So the first one is the female reproductive system. So first we need to write the heading: human reproduction. So as you people already know that we have discussed the reproduction. What is the meaning of reproduction and human reproduction? We have already talked about in the previous lecture. We have covered all the introduction part and the male reproductive system and everything associated with it. We have all covered that topics where that comes under that. So now we are going to discuss the female reproductive system. So here we go. So what do you understand by female reproductive system? So if there is a part called as a male reproductive system, there has to be another part that is female reproductive system. So we are going to make a schematic diagram of female reproductive system, so which is as follows. So as you can see, I am going to draw the diagram of female reproductive system is like this. Like this. So this is the schematic diagram of female reproductive system. There are several parts like this. So first we need to understand it is like kind of this. So this is the female reproductive organ, in which you can see that I have drawn a female reproductive system. So we are going to label this diagram. So this part is, we are going to label it with the red color. So this part is the ovary. This part is finger-like projection. As you can see, it is a finger-like projection, is known as fimbric. This part is known as fallopian tube, and there are several parts. So this part is known as infundibulum. This part is known as ampulla, and this part is known as isthmus. So these three parts make fallopian tube, fallopian tube, or we can say oviduct. Another name of this is oviduct. Okay, so this above part of the superior part is known as fundus, uterine fundus, uterine fundus. So this is the part known as uterine fundus. So again, this is ovary and this is fallopian tube, and you know there are three layers. This is, first of all, we need to understand this is the uterine cavity. Uterine cavity, and there are three layers present in the uterus. So this part is known as uterus, this hole with cavity and with this part. So this part is known as uterus. So uterus has three layers, namely, so first we need to understand this part is uterus. Uterus, and uterus has three layers. They are as follows. The outer layer is known as perimetrium. Perimetrium. The second middle one is myometrium. As you understand, the myo means muscle. So myometrium. The third one is endometrium. Endometrium. So there are three layers of uterus. So these are as follows. This part is known as cervix, and this part is known as vagina. Okay, so cervix and vagina both make a canal known as birth canal. Birth canal. So I have labeled all the things, and we are going to discover the significance of each and every part, and we are going to discover over here. So now you have understood what is the female reproductive part is like. So first we need to understand important thing. We are going to understand each and every part separately over here. So first here comes is ovary. So ovary, what do you mean by ovary? Ovary is the primary sex organ of female which produce female hormones, or we can say ovarian hormones. So it is primary sex organ in female which produces ovarian hormones. As we have discussed earlier in the lecture that there are two hormones which is secreted by ovary. So ovary, that is the estrogen and the progesterone. So actually ovary continuously secretes the estrogen hormone, but the progesterone is secreted by corpus luteum, which is the remnant part of the egg. So the gametes are also produced by the ovary. Inside the ovary, gametes formation also occur in female, and you can also, if I draw like this, so ovary is covered by epithelial layer of epithelial layer, and also contain stroma. Stroma is made up of a peripheral part known as cortex, and the internal part is known as medulla. So we are going to write over here. So the second point, this is the first point. The second point is it produces egg, or we can say ovum. Okay, so which is important in which is a gamete of female. The third point is it is covered with epithelial layer and contain stroma, which is made up of two parts: peripheral cortex, peripheral part, that means peripheral cortex, and the internal part is known as medulla. As I have explained in this diagram, this internal part is known as medulla and this peripheral part is known as peripheral cortex. So they both are collectively known as stroma, and the outer layer of the ovary is covered by epithelial lining. If I talk about the length, the size of the ovary, and then it is 2 to 4 centimeter. If I talk about length of ovary is about 3 to 4 centimeter, and if I talk about it is attached by the help of a ligament, and that ligament it is attached to the wall of uterus, and with the ligament which is also help in attaching to the pelvic wall. And so the next point come here is it is attached to uterus wall and pelvic wall by the help of ligament. So as you can understand that it is attached to the uterus wall which is present near to it, and if we talk about it is also attached with behind, there is a wall known as behind which is a pelvic wall, and it is attached to pelvic wall by the means of ligament. And the next point come here is ovary is located, the position of ovary is at abdomen. If abdomen, so the position of ovary is present at abdomen like over here. So there is ovary, this is the location of ovary. So that covers all the pointers. So I hope that you have written this side. So now I am going to cover the next topic, which is our femur. So you can write it down also in the femur over here. So femur, there is only a single statement which has been written in our NCERT. So according to our NCERT says that femur is the part which is responsible for collection of ovum after ovulation. So here I am writing with a blue pen. So this is femur. So it helps in collection of ovum after ovulation. So after ovulation, this femur part collects the ovum. So actually the egg is produced inside the ovary. After inside ovary, it get ovulated. So after ovulation, the ovum get outside this ovary, and which is collected by femur, the finger-like projection. So it helps in collection of ovum after ovulation. This is the only function which has been mentioned in our NCERT. So that is the thing. If we come towards the fallopian tube, so there are 2 points only in our NCERT which says like fallopian tube, also known as oviduct. So I have mentioned it over here, and the length of oviduct is around 10 centimeter to 12 centimeter. So I am writing it over here with the blue pen. So the length is about 10 to 12 centimeter. Okay. So 10 to 12 centimeter. There is another neat PYQ question which asks about what is the epithelium which is present in the fallopian tube. So the answer of that question is columnar ciliated epithelium is present inside the fallopian tube. So here I am writing PYQ. You can overwrite PYQ. You can write over here. So columnar ciliated epithelium is present. So that is also an important question you need to remember, because that is a PYQ previously asked question, that is the columnar ciliated epithelium is present over here, and the cilia is present in the fallopian tube, which helps in transfer of ovum if the ovary is actually after ovulation, the egg is coming out of the ovary and which is collected by the female, and after female, the ovum is present over here. Now the ovum is needed. The ovum needs to be transferred into the uterine cavity by the help of means of cilia, which is present in the inner lining of fallopian tube, that is known as columnar ciliated epithelium. That's a PYQ question, and you need to remember. So there are three parts of fallopian tube. First is the infundibulum, which is this part, the ampulla, and this is the isthmus part. So actually, in the previous NCRT, there was a previous NCRT, like if I am talking about the edition which is present, which is the edition of 10 years ago. So that NCRT used to say the fertilization happen at ampullary isthmic junction. So ampullary isthmic junction is this part. So when the ovum comes over here, the sperm come and fertilize at this position, which is known as ampullary isthmic junction. So after that correction, so now NCRT says the fertilization happen only in ampullary region. So here you can also write down below the ampulla, the fertilization happens at ampullary region. Fertilization happen at ampullary region. So the fertilization is happening at ampullary region. I have written under the ampulla. So this is the correction that NCRT has corrected over the years. But what I am saying is the NEET question, if you are preparing for NEET competition exam, that can also provide both the option ampullary region and ampullary isthmic junction. So you have to go with the ampullary region because that is the latest corrected sentence by the NCRT. So if the only option is present ampullary isthmic junction, that is also correct. But if both the options are present ampullary region and ampullary isthmic junction, that ampullary region is the correct option because that is the correct statement that has been corrected by the NCRT of the present edition. So this part is known as uterine fundus and this is known as uterine cavity. So after fertilization over here, zygote formation occur, and after zygote is further developed into actually that is processed under three stages, that is morula, blastula and gastrula. So after fertilization it is 2-cell stage, then it will become 4-cell stage, then it will become 8-cell stage, 16, 32 and 64. So these stages are like morula, blastula and gastrula. So in blastula, that is A-cell stage and this is known as blastocyst. So blastocyst will come over here and will attach to the intrauterine wall. The intrauterine wall it is going to attach, so blastocyst is going to attach. That process is known as implantation, which I have already discussed in the previous lecture. So the thing is, so after that blastocysts come and attach at the wall of intrauterine wall. So that process is known as implantation, which I have already discussed. So now if we talk about the uterus, so uterus is made up of 3 layers. That outer one is known as that black one is known as perimetrium. This one is perimetrium. There is a layer inside this. So this layer is known as myometrium. So myometrium is made up of smooth muscles, and smooth muscles are responsible for rhythmic contraction during the time of parturition. So when the time parturition comes, so these smooth muscles in the myometrium layer are responsible for rhythmic contraction, which will help in delivery of a baby. And this finger-like projection is known as endometrium. So the endometrium, if I talk about endometrium is that layer which gets degenerated, which can we can say degenerated and converted into blood, and which is responsible for monthly changes in the menstrual cycle. So the changes only happens in the endometrium layer of this uterine cavity of uterus, because this layer is responsible for the periods, or we can say the menses, or we can say. So this layer get monthly changes every time, and this layer endometrium is responsible for menstrual cycles. So the menstrual cycle is regulated by hormones, which we will talk about in the later topics, that is menstrual cycle itself. So if we come over this, so this part, the squeezed out part, is known as cervix, and that and below that cervix is known as vagina. So I have written already over here, the cervix and vagina, they both commonly known as birth canal. So from that the baby is going to take birth. So I hope that you have understood. I hope that you have understood the female reproductive system. So this is all you need to understand in this topic. So I have completed all the labelings and all the pointers and all the PYQ which is associated with this topic. So let's come over to our next topic, which is known as gametogenesis, and in which we will going to understand spermatogenesis and oogenesis. And in this today lecture, we are going to cover only spermatogenesis. So I hope that you have written all these things, and after that we are going to take on our next topic, that is spermatogenesis. So let me write over here, spermatogenesis. So I have already told you in the previous lecture that I have already discussed the definition of gametogenesis. You people already understand what gametogenesis means. The formation of gamete is known as gametogenesis, and under that topic there is spermatogenesis, because that spermatogenesis is going to happen in male, and if we talk about female, the oogenesis is going to happen in female. The spermatogenesis, the hormone responsible for spermatogenesis is the male primary sex hormone, that is known as testosterone. In female, there are two hormones are responsible, estrogen and progesterone, which is secreted by the ovary. So let's come to spermatogenesis. So it can be defined as the process of formation of sperms. So by that you can understand this. So let's talk about spermatogenesis, how the sperms are formed. So actually the thing is that I have already told you in the previous lecture that in the seminiferous tubule, sperms are produced in seminiferous tubule, and inside the seminiferous tubule there are two cells which are namely known as the Leydig cells and the Sertoli cells. I have already discussed in the previous lecture. So what happens is there is a cell known as spermatogonium which is attached to the Sertoli cell. I have already talked this about in the previous lecture. So that spermatogonium is over here. Spermatogonia for singular and gonium for plural. So that is the ploidy of that cell is 2n. So after differentiation and mitosis, differentiation means that spermatogonium is going to a further process known as differentiation, which will change these cells and convert it to something else. And the cell division, the spermatogonia, between spermatogonia and primary spermatocyte, primary spermatocyte is mitosis, because actually you already know this thing that spermatogonia is 2n ploidy. 2n means diploid, and the sperms are of haploid ploidy. So in this flowchart you are going to understand how this diploid cell is get converted into a haploid sperm. So the spermatogonia is 2n ploidy, that is known as diploid, and after differentiation and mitosis it is converted into primary spermatocyte, and after and that primary spermatocyte is also of 2 and ploidy, and after that meiosis first happen. Meiosis first, you already know, you have already studied under the cell division chapter that meiosis 1 will make only 2 cells, 2 haploid cells. So 2 haploid cell, that is N and that is N. So okay, so after primary spermatocyte and meiosis first happens, these cells are known as secondary spermatocyte, secondary spermatocyte, which is of N ploidy. So now you can understand after meiosis first from primary spermatocyte to secondary spermatocyte, the ploidy has changed. First it was diploid and now it has become haploid after meiosis first. So after that, this cell division is incomplete because in meiosis you already know there are 2 cycles present. The first is meiosis first and the second is the meiosis second. So after meiosis second, these both haploid cells will give rise to 2 more haploid cells. That is N, 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 N. So this is known as spermatid. So this is known as spermatid. The ploidy of spermatid is N. Okay. So after spermiogenesis, actually there is a process known as spermiogenesis. So spermiogenesis, after spermiogenesis, these spermatid will convert into spermatozoa, or in common layman language we can call it sperm. So this is known as sperm. So now these spermatids are converted into spermatozoa. Spermatozoa by the process of spermiogenesis. So spermiogenesis is converting a sperm to spermatozoa. Actually, if we define spermiogenesis, then it means that when actually in seminiferous tubules, the spermatids are immature and they are attached to the Sertoli cells, and after the spermiogenesis, the spermatozoa will get their head get detached from the Sertoli cells and they are now freely motile. So they have become active. So that's the process known as spermiogenesis. So here you can write spermiogenesis. What do you mean by spermiogenesis? So if I write over here spermiogenesis, it can be defined as the process in which spermatids are converted into spermatozoa. Spermatids are converted into spermatozoa in which the head of a sperm is detached from Sertoli cells. In which the head of sperm detached from Sertoli cell and become active Okay, so this is the definition of the spermiogenesis, which is also an important, can be asked in the in your competitive exam, because everybody knows this flow chart but actually don't understand the meaning of spermiogenesis. So you can also say this is the differentiation process in which the spermatid are converted into spermio. So you can understand that this is the differentiation process. So this is the spermiogenesis. So now the thing is, the last topic which comes under the spermatogenesis is the hormone action. So what kind of hormones are responsible in our NCERT? There are 2 hormones responsible for the two hormones responsible for spermatogenesis. Okay, so spermatogenesis. So now we are going to understand the hormone action of on spermatogenesis. So you can write the heading hormonal action on spermatogenesis. Hormonal action on spermatogenesis. So actually you have already studied in the previous chapter in your ninth standard that in control and coordination you have studied the hypothalamus gland is known as the master of master gland. So here I am writing the hypothalamus, which is present at the base of the midbrain of the part of diencephalon, forebrain part diencephalon, at the base of diencephalon. It is present over there, and the hypothalamus is also known as master of master gland, thalamus. So this gland secretes GnRH. So that hormone stands for gonadotropic releasing hormone, and that GnRH is secreted by hypothalamus, which help in releasing of LH and FSH hormone from pituitary gland. Actually, which part of pituitary, can anybody explain which part of pituitary is responsible for FSH and LH secretion? And does anybody know? Actually, the anterior pituitary is responsible for LH and FSH hormone secretion. So anybody can tell what is the full form of LH and FSH? So the full form of LH is Leydig cell. FSH is follicle stimulating hormone, and the LH is luteinizing hormone. So you can luteinizing hormone is LH and FSH is follicle stimulating hormone. So these hormones differently perform a different function. So LH hormone comes over here and FSH hormone goes over here. So LH hormone is responsible for it acts on Leydig cells of interstitial space in seminiferous tubule. So LH hormone is responsible, which stimulates Leydig cell, which is present in interstitial space. Actually, in previous lecture I have already talked about the Leydig cells, also known as interstitial cells. So it acts on Leydig cells of interstitial space and responsible for androgen production in males, and responsible for androgen production. So that androgen you already know about is testosterone. So LH hormone is responsible for production of androgen, which is known as, if we talk about male, it is known as testosterone. And FSH hormone stimulates Sertoli cells. So it stimulates Sertoli cells which are responsible for secretion of some factors that helps in spermiogenesis. So it stimulates Sertoli cells. And secrete some factors that are responsible for spermiogenesis. So this is the work of FSH and that's the work of LH. Now you already understand. So both the hormones are responsible for something. LH is producing androgen, and the FSH is helping producing factors that are related to the spermiogenesis. So this is the action of hormones on spermatogenesis, and now you understand everything. So here our spermatogenesis topic has been completed. So in the next lecture we are going to cover oogenesis and mammary gland and further topics. So in this lecture we have completed female reproductive part and gametogenesis, in which we have covered the part known as spermatogenesis. So I hope you understand everything in the today's lecture, but still if you have doubt regarding any topic that I have taught in this today's video, so you can ask me anytime, anywhere. So thank you very much.